Hello everyone, my name is Kristen Gentry, HIM 5301, and this is my second reading presentation for the semester, and it is on the social life of health information. Overview. The internet has changed people's relationships with information. Our data consistently shows that doctors, nurses, and other health professionals continue to be the first choice for most people with health concerns, but online resources, including advice from peers, are a significant source of health information in the United States. These findings are based on a national telephone survey conducted in August and September 2010 among 3,001 adults in the United States. The complete methodology and results are appended to this report. And this was the methodology that they used. All numerical results in this report are based on the data from telephone interviews conducted by Princeton Survey Research Association between August 9th and September 13th, 2010. And like I said, it was 3,001 adults aged 18 and older. Interviews were conducted in English and Spanish, and one can say that 95% confidence that the error sampling is plus or minus 2.5 percentage points. For results based on internet users, the margin of sampling error is plus or minus 2.9 percentage points. In addition to sampling error, question wording and practical difficulties in conducting telephone surveys may introduce some error or bias into the findings of opinion polls. A combination of landline and cellular random digit dialing samples were used. Both samples were provided by Survey Sampling International. The landline sample for this survey was designed to generalize to the United States adult population and to oversample African Americans and Hispanics. The cellular sample was not list assisted but was drawn through a systematic sampling from dedicated wireless 100 blocks and shared service 100 blocks with no directory listed landline numbers. A little bit more on the methodology. The disposition reports all of the sample telephone numbers ever dialed from the original telephone number samples. The response rate estimates the fraction of all eligible respondents in the sample that were ultimately reviewed. At PSRAI, it is calculated by taking the product of these three component rates. And you have the contact rate, the cooperation rate, and the completion rate. The contact rate is the proportion of working numbers where a request for interview was made. Cooperation rate is the proportion of contacted numbers where a consent for interview was at least initially obtained versus those who refused. And a completion rate is the proportion of initially cooperating and eligible interviews that were completed. Thus, the response rate for the landline sample was 13.6%. The response rate for the cellular sample was 17%. And here are the survey findings. The survey finds that of the 74% of the adults who use the internet, 80% of internet users have looked online for information about any of 15 health topics, such as a specific disease or treatment. This translates to 59% of all adults. 34% of internet users, or 25% of adults, have read someone else's commentary or experience about health or medical issues on an online news group, website, or blog. 25% of internet users, or 19% of adults, have watched an online video about health or medical issues. 24% of internet users, or 18% of adults, have consulted online reviews of a particular drug or medical treatment. 18% of internet users, or 13% of adults, have gone online to find others who might have health concerns similar to theirs. 16% of internet users, or 12% of adults, have consulted online rankings or reviews of doctors or other providers. 15% of internet users, or 11% of adults, have consulted online rankings or reviews of hospitals or other medical facilities. and a little more on survey findings. Of those who use social network sites, 62% of adult internet users, or 46% of all adults. 23% of social network site users, or 11% of adults, have followed their friends' personal health experiences or updates on the site. 17% of social network site users, or 8% of adults, have used social networking sites to remember other people who suffered from a certain health condition. 15% of social network site users, or 7% of adults, have gotten any health information on the sites. And here is the reference from the survey that I used.